Thank you, Mike. Well, it's my great pleasure today to introduce the keynote speaker, Dr. Patrick Michaels. I already know one thing about him. He's an awful humble guy, because about half of what all the credentials I was going to mention, he got a hold of about a half an hour and crossed them all out. So I'm going to give you the short edition of Dr. Michaels. He is he believes that the political process has exaggerated global warming. Dr. Michaels is a distinguished senior fellow in the School of Public Policy at George Mason University and a senior fellow at the Cato Institute. And Mike's wrong, I'm not going to tell you what the Cato Institute is, other than the fact it's got a lot of smart guys who try to figure out national issues. And it's no secret why they chose to include Dr. Michaels. He is a past president of the American Association of State Climatologists. He was also a research professor of environmental sciences at the University of Virginia for 30 years. Dr. Michaels is a contributing author and reviewer of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. He has published extensively in scientific journals. His latest book is entitled The Climate of Extremes, Global Warming Science. The global warming science they don't want you to know. Dr. Michaels received his Bachelor of Arts and Master of Science degrees in Biological Science from the University of Chicago and earned his Ph.D. in ecological climatology from the University of Wisconsin at Madison in 1979. It is a great privilege for our area to have a man of Dr. Michaels' impeccable credentials fly out to talk to us, and I encourage you all to give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I actually graduated from Cogdill High School, and when I was in college, my parents moved to Madison. And when I would take my friends out here from back east, I would regularly take them up to Sonora Pass because it's such a beautiful area. So it's nice to be back. It's as beautiful as I remember. Now, global warming. Why do we want to talk about that? Because this is an issue that permeates all environmental discussion. And it's essentially the fallback issue. If you cannot get your way with regulation on water for one reason or another, you will fall back on global warming. The reason I'm here is to give you scientific arguments you may not have heard on global warming, and also to lead you into effectively dealing with your opposition on this issue. Yeah, that's me. I work for Cato and George Mason, big deal. Now, we want this thing to go forward, but it's not. There we go. Okay. Okay, see this? This is how politics gets into, science gets into politics. This is a corn cob, which is supposed to be producing energy and saving greenhouse gases. It doesn't. Your car runs worse on ethanol than it does on gasoline. Ethanol makes it drop you about 10% in miles per gallon. But there was an image like this that appeared in Washington, D.C. And where did this image appear? Here, on the side of the building for the American Association for the Advancement of Science on New York Avenue in Washington. What's it doing there? AAAS is my lobby. My lobby exists to get me money. If I send a paper to the journal Science, it will undergo a vigorous and awful review if it says that global warming will not bring the world to an end. Because all my colleagues, whom AAAS are supporting, are receiving literally billions of dollars on this issue. And so consequently, what you have is you have a very biased scientific community that works in its own interest. It's not a conspiracy, it's just the way people work. Now, the result of all this has been some very bad things. Congressman Waxman from Beverly Hills and Ed Markey from Massachusetts passed this bill through the House of Representatives on June 26, 2009 to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. it reduces them 3% below 2005 levels in 2012, and all the way to 83% below 2005 levels just 39 years from today. If you ask anyone in Washington, D.C., who voted for this, or their staffers, and say, just how do you propose to reduce emissions 83% by 2050? You will get the answer that you always want to solicit from your opponent on television. Because no one knows. Howsoever, it will have some effects. These are the per capita emissions of carbon dioxide going back to 1800 or so. And what you see here, they are going up, and they kind of level off in the late 1970s. This is the 2005 value. Waxman-Markey takes us down to here in 2050. Draw the line backwards. You are allowed the emissions of the average American in 1867, 39 years from today. Nobody knows how to do that, so what Waxman-Markey does instead is it makes energy, carbon-based energy, so expensive that you can't afford it. Example, when gasoline was $4 a gallon 2 years ago last May, U.S. consumption dropped by a grand total of 4%. What price do you think gasoline has to be for consumption to go down by 83%? Oh, I know, I'll buy a hybrid car. Sure, I have a hybrid car. You know why? They never blow one up. But the reason is, if you buy that hybrid car, that Honda Accord that you traded in is still on the street. It's just been sold to somebody else. Don't tell everybody you're saving gasoline by buying a hybrid. You're actually putting more carbon dioxide in the air. Anyway, these are the emissions of carbon dioxide for years 2005, 6, 7, 8. I think we'll be 5% below 2005 levels in 2012. Why? Because the economy has resulted in much less energy consumption. Also the fact that we are now producing more and more natural gas and have discovered natural gas that we can get by fracturing, except my greener friends don't want that either. And by the way, if your greener friends are serious on this, you would say nuclear power and they wouldn't run away. That's the litmus test that you use on this issue. If you want a dense source of energy, you need it. If you don't want dense energy, you're not going to run your society. So, Waxman-Markey, how much global warming does it say? Well, let's run the United Nations computer model, what we call the mid-range model for global warming. Now, I'm going to show you later on in the show that that model's wrong, but let's just accept what that says for the time being. It says that if we don't do anything, by the year 2050, we would have 1.5 degrees of global warming between 1990 and 2050. Now, let's do Waxman-Markey. Everybody in the United States does Waxman-Markey. We reduce our emissions 83%. By 2050, we get 1.54 degrees of warming globally. It saved you 0.04 of a degree of warming. How many jobs did it cost? God knows. Over here is if every nation of the world that has obligations under the Kyoto Protocol on global warming does Waxman-Markey and does it successfully. According to the UN model, you get 1.5 degrees of warming. So, for having thrown the world into permanent recession, which I believe is called a depression, what you have done is you have prevented 0.08 of a degree of global warming. Aha! But California leads the nation. I know that, and everybody in California leads that. So we have something called AB 32. AB 32, I know I'm very subtle, okay? AB 32 does nothing. Let's run the same computer model for AB 32, and let's actually have a television commercial. Here I am in California, 4 days. I love the Golden State. Beautiful drive up Highway 49. I know. I was supposed to take LaGrange Road. Anyway, and I am looking at this wonderful state and thinking, my God, what's going to happen with AB 32? And I'm on the television. People look on the television. Where's the ad for Prop 23? There are none. What's wrong here? How easy is this to be? Let me show you. Okay, let's do a television ad for Prop 23 right now. Graphic. AB 32 does nothing. Now we put this in bar chart form. Here's AB 32's effect on climate. This is the amount of warming that it saves in 50 years. If California only jumps off the bridge, which it seems to be enjoying doing, you save 0.02 of a degree Celsius of global warming. 0.02 of a degree. This is assuming the United Nations model, which is probably wrong. If all of the US jumps off the bridge, while the Chinese built their bridges, the United States, we would go through 0.03 of a degree of warming. So where's the television ad? On one side is a meter adding up dollars, and another side is a meter adding up jobs, and another side is this line that goes nowhere showing how much global warming you save. Can't anybody here play this game? Okay, let's do it, as Gary Gilmore said once and only once. Here are the Kyoto obligated nations. If all the nations that have obligations under the Kyoto Protocol do AD 32, you save 0.05 of a degree Celsius. Again, can't anybody play this game? Where's the commercial? And find me the guy to put it on. Next. Okay. Oh, now, the cost estimates. I have cost estimates for EPA, for Waxman-Markey, but they probably also apply to AD 32. I know they apply to Waxman-Markey. They're right here. Okay, now why? Because you see, if no one knows how to do something, then no one knows what it costs, right? I mean, you get the answer, say, how are you going to reduce emissions 83%? And then somebody says, well, it's going to save 5 bajillion jobs, or it's going to cost $5 trillion. No, if you don't know how to do it, you don't know how much it costs, so stop BSing, okay? Where's the ad on that for Prop 32, AB 23? Let's go forward. A funny thing happened on the way to Waxman-Markey. On June 26, 2009, Waxman-Markey at 7 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time on a Friday, in other words, so that it would never get on the weekend news cycle, was passed by the House of Representatives. That's the way we do things in this current administration. We pass things when people are asleep and they hope the Chinese will shut off the internet or something. And so what happened then, and if you look at the Rasmussen Presidential Tracking Index, yeah, good. Yeah, okay. Okay. It's a 3-day running total. So June 29, 2009 was the first day it had 3 days after Waxman-Markey passed. It went negative on June 29th. President Obama's approval index, strong approval minus strong disapproval, went negative on June 29, 2009, and has never been positive since that day. Okay? It's global warming that threw him into the tank, in the same way that it's global warming that threw Kevin Rudd into the tank in Australia. It's very, very unpopular, things like Waxman-Markey. Now, you look at it, I look at it, and I guarantee you that means every nerd in Washington looks at it every morning. Every senator staffer looks at it and goes, Senator, Obama's approval index just went negative right after cap and trade. And so the senators go, oh, well, we better not pass that. And so it goes to the Environmental Protection Agency.